Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to talk about are sales down right now? What's going on with the market? Is it a buyer's market? These are a lot of questions people are asking, talking about, and I put together a video here not only to talk about what's going on, but also to try to bring in some of the strategy that I'm doing, some of the things I'm seeing, some of the things I actually talk about on Patreon over the past couple of years, going all the way back to 2017, because I feel like a lot of what we're experiencing right now is a repeat of 2017, but in a larger way. So, to start out with, are sales down? I think buy it now sales are definitely slower than 2020, 2021. However, auctions are doing more than fine. In fact, auctions to me are just so liquid right now and more successful than they really ever have been. If you look at 2020 to today, I feel like I am not only buying more from auctions, also selling more from auctions. If we go back to like 2017, 16 and earlier, auctions usually were awful. Back in the day, auctions were like the thing you did when you just knew you were going to dump a card, and that's really it. Not many people today have to say goodbye to Butterfree like Ash did when you do an auction. It's a much better scenario, and that's, I think, the general setup that I'm seeing right now is buy now sales are down a bit, but overall, I'm still getting what I usually do. Just to be transparent, I usually had about a sale a day or so or something like that. And keep in mind, I'm sperm the sperm whale. I'm more catered towards like a niche hobby shop or whatever you want to say. Like I'm only doing certain items. I'm not doing like everything. I'm not like a Rusty or like a Troll and Toad or someone who has like a sale every 5 minutes. So my data is going to be a little different. But overall, yeah, I noticed a difference there in buy it now, but the auctions are just doing more than fine. Like they are almost to a point where I'm putting cards in, which I talk about on Patreon all the time, that are hitting new prices. Some of these like 20th anniversary stuff that I had in storage since 2017. I'm like, man, this card is insane. Like I had one that did $1,000 the other day, and I was like, pfft, I had no idea. Like I thought it was a couple $100, and there you go. The market taught me a lesson. So that's the reality right now. Is buy now sales are definitely down. Auctions are fine or up, if you will. Now there's a quarter cycle that happens, or that used to happen before 2020, where in the beginning of each year, that quarter one, it's usually a slow time. After the holidays, taxes are coming up. Naturally, Q1 is going to be the slowest. And then it starts to pick up, and I would say it usually climaxes somewhere in Q3, Q4. I usually mark it as like Black Friday's the end. Like that's it right there. If we had to draw a line in the sand, it's always Black Friday for me. And I don't think that's just true for collectibles. I think a lot of retail's that way too. That's why Black Friday exists, because they're trying to go out with a bang. And then you start to see that slow down. Then you have that process start up again every year. And in 2020, 2021, it was just no chill. It was typical like Pokemon just saying, hold my suspicious food canteen, like secret rare. Like it was insane, like how nuts it was. So that is the usual cycle. And I think we're seeing a bit of that now as well. Just throwing that out there as I think it's relevant to what we're experiencing. Now, the big thing for what's going on today, when I talked about 2017 and now, we all should learn at this point what happens with the hype cycles, or whatever you want to call it, the growth cycle, the exposure, the Logan Paul, the Pokemon Go, whatever big word is. What happens is prices increase and then supply increases. And that's because the obvious pattern of people coming in on previous supply, buying it up, prices go up. Then all these new people, all these new hashtag investors, flippers, everybody, the stonkers, they're all here and they start competing with one another. And today, not only are you going to have a buyer's market, but you're going to have a longer buyer's market. So not only are we in a quote unquote buyer's market, it's going to be here for the foreseeable future. And that's because of one main reason. There's so many more people competing. And within that, not only do you have more people competing, you have more people taking risks than at any point in time. Back in 2014, I remember when it was very vogue to go and buy stuff from Yahoo Japan and flip it and, do these very easy things back then. Today, you have people buying from zero feedback sellers, ungraded cards with no back pictures. There's no exaggeration in that story. That's a true story right there. That's you just heard a documentary. That is exactly what is happening today, is people are buying cards with no care whatsoever, taking the biggest risks, and that's why the competition is not only greater in volume, it's also greater in severity. Back in the day, people weren't doing that. People would be like, oh, if I don't have a back picture, I'm not going to buy it. Oh, this last one went for $50. I'm not going to pay more than that. That's what people did back then. Where now it's like you can't even think. If you think, someone already bought it. There's people who have notifications for these hole-in-the-wall sites in Japan or these Mercaris or whatever it is that you use. And people are always hounding and competing on those pages. You even have people like sperm of the sperm whale businesses that are hiring people to search for collections. Some of the people in my call tier and Patreon, We talk about that all the time, how you don't have the time as a individual to do all these things. You could, like the 2011 SM Pratt, could go through all these Craigslist sites and all that stuff, where today I have no kind of time to do that. So there are people like myself, Sperm the Sperm Whales, who are hiring other people to just go and do that. Like, we're not talking like the DA card worlds or the massive businesses, doing millions, tens of millions of dollars in revenue. Like, we're talking just individuals at this point are paying other people to go and look for those collection purchases, go through Craigslist, Mercari, or whatever site it is today, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, I don't know, any of them, whatever it is, Snapchat. There's people who are being paid to do that. And that is the market you're in, and that is the market that it's probably going to be for the foreseeable future. So not only do you have more people, you have more severity in the competition. Like, it cannot be overstated. There are people taking more risks today and optimizing today in a way that we never had at any other point in time, even back in 2017. And I think an easy way to summarize all that is just that anything that can be optimized will be. And this ties in a lot of the smpratisms of K-shaped recovery or the core, older, rare, mint, or better. The only things that really can't be optimized are those older, rare, mint, or better cards. There's no way just to force a pre-release Clefable 10. To this date, we still don't have a pre-release Clefable 10. There's no way to force just a ton of PSA 10 first edition base Charizards. Like, we're over that hump. The majority of them are logged in the pop report. There's no way to force like a ton of illustrators or trophies or whatever it is, scarce seal product, whether it's like Skyridge, first edition base. You just can't optimize that stuff because, again, those fundamentals. And the thing to talk about in a buyer's market is everyone's a financial genius when the rocket's going to the moon. But when that travel's done, rockets always come back down to earth. And when that's over, fundamentals really shine. Fundamentals truly shine in a buyer's market because you truly see what was up there because of a moment, because of a market condition, because of whatever temporary thing was happening. And it was quickly self-regulated. Where the stuff that has that fundamentals, the older, rare, mint, or better, it's still out there shining. Because, again, it's just not possible to optimize. And I've talked about this for years and years and years. If you've been watching this channel from the beginning, when things were slightly more cringy than they are now, I've been talking about this concept from the jump. Whether a illustrator was $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, $10 million, I don't care. It's the same fundamental principles for why it tracks that way. So that is the inherent reality, not for Pokemon, not just for Pokemon, Magic, collectibles, you name it. Pick your poison. It's true for all of it. And you're really seeing it right now. The older, rare, mint, or better fundamentals are truly shining right now. Everybody already knows it's just a repeat. What are the things that continue to thrive, that aren't dropping that hard, that are still earning record prices today? It's going to be those older, rare, mint, or better items, those strong fundamental items. So that's the current state right now. It is definitely a buyer's market. I don't see it going away anytime. I brought over some first edition base stuff. You stuck around here towards the end to share one of the stories that I actually had someone recently in Patreon ask about it. So if you watch back in the day, I made a video talking about how I spent $20,000 on just first edition base stuff in 1 month. And back then that was a lot more capital than it is today. 20 grand 5 years ago was much more than it is now. And back then I was just buying as much first edition base as I could. So after that cycle of Pokemon Go in 2017, you had a lot of what was happening now. You had a lot of extinct flippers and Gary V ballers that have now disintegrated because they just were competing, dumping, and offloading. And I was inhaling all that first edition base stuff like Kirby. I was just inhaling all of it. Any PSA 10 first edition base card, common, uncommon, $30 to $50, I was just buying the metric F out of it. And it's because at that moment was a great buying opportunity, just like today. Anybody getting into the market now, it is going to be a fantastic time to collect cards at a value. One closing detail here to give you is that it is easier to buy already graded stuff. And because of all this competition and the junk slab downward pressure that we have, it's much easier to go out and buy a PSA 9 first edition common already graded than busting out the old rod, trying to catch a mint one and send it out yourself. Because back in the day, that was the choice. It's like, all right, I'm just going to do this myself, right? It only cost me $10. I'll roll the dice. But now, when you're talking $30, even $30 to $50, that same price I was paying then for even a 9. The cheapest option at PSA right now is $50. So unless you get that card for free and it's going to hit at least a 9 or higher, you have little to no room there. So the obvious answer is there's a lot of value of already graded as it stands in this current moment. Now, of course, things can change. Markets are always in movement. They're always in motion. But the bottom line is there's a ton of graded value at the moment. It ties in the previous video, the earlier video about, junk slabs and downward pressure. It's very true for what we're experiencing now, just in a broader sense of buyer's market. It's not going to change. It's going to be like this for a while. PSA just put out their month for March, the most type of cards graded, Pokemon. Like we are out here above baseball, basketball, soccer, all of it. We were the most graded Pokemon, period. So what does that mean for the market? Most likely going to be continued supply for the foreseeable future. And that's great news for buyers. For sellers, you're going to have to adapt. We saw a lot of extinct flippers. The paper hands were destroyed when the tide rose and the margins thinned. Those people were famined out of the hobby. They did not prepare. They died of dysentery. They did not bring enough food for the oxen on the way. They did not survive the journey because, you cannot keep that same general perspective of 2020 where everything's going to the moon. You don't have to analyze everything. Everybody's a financial genius when everything's going up. But when things are in a buyer's market, you definitely have to be more critical. You have to be more aware of what is this card? What are the fundamentals of this item that I'm about to buy? What's the market history of that? And for someone who's been around 15 years, it's very easy. It's second nature. It's just like speaking a language or playing a sport. It's so easy at this point. But for new people coming in, there's so much noise. There's so many opportunities happening all the time. The market's so fast. There's so much competition. So it's really tough right now. For new people trying to make a go of it, it's going to be tough for probably the foreseeable future. Unless you have something to counterbalance that, a ton of capital, knowledge or whatever it is. There's so many things that you are competing with today that you simply did not have to deal with five years ago, especially. In this previous growth cycle of 2016 to 2017, you didn't have to deal with people going on Yahoo Japan, buying lots of cards, no back picks, zero feedback, YOLOing it. Like that did not happen back then, but it happens probably every single day now. Every single day, someone's doing that, whether it's on Yahoo, whether it's on Mercari, whether it's on Craigslist, if that still even exists, Facebook, wherever it is. People are doing that all the time now. So this is what the market is. And I think, again, we're just going to go through the same things we went through back then. It'll just take longer. It's fantastic news for buyers. For sellers, it's going to be a grind. Your treadmill just went up to incline 10. Like it's going to be a sweat. Probably for a while, especially if you're new and you're low capital, you haven't built up an inventory. A lot of these things are going to be much more competitive. The margins are going to be more limited, and you just have to shoot for the items that have better fundamentals. I talk about it all the time, Patreon. There's plenty of Japanese things, in my opinion, they're super underrated. It's not a guarantee they're going to explode the next day. I think a lot of people are looking for the next rocket to take off, when in reality, I think majority of the cards that are doing well today were understated for a long time. Like the illustration contest cards and things like that. Some cards sat like this for a long time, and then they finally had their day. So that's the beauty of all this, is that you don't know. There's risk. Risk is business's shadow, and right now the risk is definitely on the side more sellers. Naturally, in a buyer's market, that's what you can expect. And buyers are just full of choices right now, full of choices. So there you go. Hopefully I covered a lot of the things people were talking about in relation to sales being down, buyer's market, the optimization of everything. Everything is so optimized now. Anything that can be optimized is or will be. That's it. You just need to take that home with you and print out 72 font, bold, italicized. Anything that can be optimized is or will be. And the things that continue to be tough, it's because, again, those fundamentals, older, rare, mentor better, that's what it's all about. So there it is, guys. As usual, you know the deal. Let me know how you feel. That's pretty much it. Till next time.